The galaxy was wide and full of life. There were many planets, stars, and ships flying between them. Some planets had strange animals, others had smart aliens. Over time, many of these aliens began to talk to each other. They built space stations, made rules, and tried to live in peace. One of these places was called Unity Station. It was big and beautiful, floating in space between many planets. It didn't belong to any one group. It was a place where everyone could meet, talk, and solve problems without fighting. 10 human diplomats lived and worked on Unity Station. They were not soldiers. They didn't carry weapons. Their job was to help people from different worlds understand each other. These diplomats were kind and wise. They listened to problems, took notes, and offered ideas. Everyone respected them. They were peaceful and polite. Even when others got angry, they stayed calm. Many aliens trusted them. But not everyone wanted peace. The Varnak Dominion was a strong and proud empire. They had many ships and many rules. They believed they were better than others. They did not like humans. The Varnak thought humans were weak because they talked too much and fought too little. They saw kindness as a flaw, not a strength. One cold morning in space, something terrible happened. The 10 human diplomats were invited to a meeting. The message came from the Varnak. It said the Varnak wanted to talk about trade and peace. The diplomats were happy. They put on their best uniforms and brought gifts. They thought this was a chance to make things better. But it was a trap. As soon as the diplomats entered the meeting room, the doors locked behind them. The lights went out. They were taken by Varnak soldiers, quick, cold, and quiet. The humans were confused. They asked why. They said they only wanted to help, but the soldiers said nothing. No one else knew. The room had no cameras. The station was large and the Varnak had chosen a hidden place. Hours passed, then days. The diplomats never came back. People began to ask questions. Their families sent messages. The leaders of Earth called the station, but no one had answers. Finally, a small message was found. It was short and cold. It came from the Varnak Dominion. It said the 10 humans had been removed. That was all. No reason, no names, just the word removed. People were shocked. Removed. What did that mean? Where were the humans? Were they hurt? Were they alive? It didn't take long to find the truth. A spy who worked on Unity Station sent a secret file to Earth. It showed a short video. The video came from a Varnak warship. It was only a few seconds long, but that was enough. It showed the 10 human diplomats in a dark room. Their hands were tied. A Varnak general stood in front of them. He spoke in a deep, cruel voice. "These are the enemies of order," he said. "They speak too much. They weaken the galaxy." Then the screen went black. Everyone knew what had happened. The 10 humans were dead. The news spread fast. People on Earth could not believe it. People cried. People screamed. Some could not sleep. These were not soldiers. They had not broken laws. They had only tried to help. And now they were gone. Other worlds were afraid too. If the Varnak could do this to humans, who would be next? Could anyone be safe? The Varnak Dominion thought they were strong. They thought no one would fight back. They believed Earth would just be sad for a while and move on. The Varnak believed humans were soft, that they were too emotional, too careful. But they were wrong. Earth was listening. So was Mars. So were the colonies on the moons and the mining stations on faraway rocks. And they were not just listening, they were remembering. The families of the 10 diplomats held pictures in their hands and wept. Children looked at empty chairs at the dinner table. Friends placed flowers at spaceports. School students drew signs that said, "Never forget the 10." The galaxy was watching too. Cameras showed the story everywhere, on big screens, on little ones. Everyone saw the faces of the 10. Everyone heard the Varnak's words. And something began to change. At first it was quiet. A few Earth ships changed their routes. Some human ambassadors canceled their visits. One company stopped selling to Varnak planets, but these were just small actions. The Varnak Dominion laughed. They sent a message back to Earth. "We followed our rules, do not get involved." But Earth had already decided. This wasn't about rules. This was about people. The names of the 10 diplomats were now known by millions. Every news report said their names slowly, clearly, with respect. People lit candles in their homes. Others placed 10 white stars in their windows. Some held hands in silence. A girl named Layla, only 10 years old, stood in front of her school with a sign that said, "My uncle was one of the 10." Her picture spread across the galaxy. More humans began asking questions. Why did this happen? Why did no one stop it? Who made this choice? The anger began to grow, not wild anger, not loud or wild. It was quiet, it was sharp, it was strong. Earth's leaders met in secret. They didn't shout. They didn't argue. They sat in a circle and remembered the 10. Each person at the table had lost someone or knew someone who had. The pain was real. So was the focus. They said this was not just an attack on 10 people. This was an attack on all of us. The Varnak did not understand this. They saw 10 lost lives. But Earth saw 10 doors opened, 10 reasons to act. On Unity Station, flowers began to appear, not just from humans, from aliens too. One alien from the planet Ura left a note. "They helped my people find peace. I will never forget." The station leaders tried to keep order, but they could not stop what was coming. Something big was moving, like a wave rising from deep water. The Varnak still believed they were safe. They had done this kind of thing before, on small worlds, to small groups, and no one had done much. But this was different. Humans remembered pain. They learned from loss. They didn't always strike first, but they never forgot, and when they moved together. Something new was growing in the heart of Earth. It was not just sadness. It was not just anger. It was something else, something stronger. It was the beginning of change. The Varnak thought they had ended something, but they had started something instead, something they would not be able to stop. And they had no idea what was coming next. The 10 humans who were taken were not just workers on a space station. They were more than names on a list. They were daughters, sons, friends, and leaders. Each of them had a story. Each one had someone who cared about them. Each life touched many others. They were not just 10 people. They were 10 reasons for the galaxy to stop and think. One of the diplomats was named Dr. Lena Morales. She was a peace expert from Earth. Lena had dark, curly hair and a warm smile. She spoke 7 alien languages. She believed that talking was stronger than fighting. Her older brother Matteo was a high-ranking engineer on Earth. He built space shields to protect planets from asteroids. When he heard what happened to his sister, he didn't speak for hours. He just sat at her favorite bench near the ocean and watched the waves. She wanted to save lives, he whispered. Now we must protect others like her. Another was Jamal Tran. Jamal grew up on a colony on Mars. He loved music and often played a small flute during breaks on the station. His best friend, Kira, was a space pilot. They had trained together since they were kids. Jamal had once stopped a fight between two alien groups by playing a song both cultures loved. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just played and people listened. Kira was in space when she heard the news. She landed her ship and cried in her seat. He always believed sound could heal, she said. Now his silence screams. There was also Sora Chen. She came from a large family in New Shanghai. Sora had 6 younger siblings. She sent money home every week to help them study. She believed in fairness and always made sure both sides of an argument were heard. Her father was a teacher and her mother was a healer. When the news came, her whole family sat around the dinner table holding hands. She was the voice for those who had no voice, her mother said through tears. Now we will speak for her. One diplomat, Amir Najjar, was once a soldier. After the war on the ice colonies, he put down his weapon and picked up a pen. He said, "I've seen enough of pain, I want to stop it now." Amir was quiet and thoughtful. He always asked questions before giving advice. His wife, Layla, was a top medical researcher. When she found out, she locked herself in the lab for 2 days. She came out with red eyes and a message. No more deaths, not like this. Then there was Noel Brooks. She loved stars. As a child, she would lie on the roof and name every bright dot in the sky. She grew up and studied galactic law. She believed in justice and always followed the rules. Noel's twin brother, Nalan, worked in Earth space courts. He said, she didn't just follow the rules, she helped write them. He wore her favorite pin, a silver star, every day after she was gone. Another name was Nikhil Rajan. He was full of laughter. Even on hard days, he told jokes to make others smile. On Unity Station, he was the heart of the group. If someone was homesick, he made tea. If someone felt lost, he gave them a map, sometimes even a silly one. He once made peace between two angry leaders by making them bake cookies together. He believed laughter could break walls, said his aunt, who raised him. Now we carry his light in our hearts. Maria Velasquez was another diplomat. She was brave and strong. Long ago, her village had been destroyed by a storm. She helped rebuild it with her own hands. She knew what loss felt like. That's why she always tried to protect others from it. Her son, Leo, was only 6 when she left for space. He had made her a drawing of their family standing under a rainbow. After she was taken, he put the picture in a frame and said, "Mommy is part of the stars now. She's still watching." Then there was Darnell Accoy. He was wise and calm. He loved reading old Earth books and telling stories. He had worked on peace teams for over 20 years. He once stopped a planet war by asking leaders to walk through a garden together, saying, "You cannot smell flowers while shouting." His daughter, Eden, was a famous speaker. She said, "He didn't speak often, but when he did, everyone stopped to listen. Now I'll make sure his voice is never forgotten." A diplomat named Zaina al-Farouk was strong in her faith and kind in her actions. She always carried a small book of prayers. She believed every soul had value, no matter what they looked like or where they came from. She helped hundreds of alien refugees find safety. Her grandfather was a poet, and her words always sounded like music. When she was gone, her community held a quiet gathering. "She gave light," said one elder, "and now we must shine for her." The last of the 10 was Caleb Dune. Caleb was different. He had once been a rebel, angry at the system. But someone helped him turn his life around, and now he worked for peace. He used to say, "If I can change, anyone can." Caleb helped young people believe they mattered. His mentor, an old war hero named Grayson, said, "Caleb was the proof that even broken things can still build peace." He fixed what others had given up on. All 10 of them had a story. All 10 of them had dreams. They believed that kindness mattered. That peace was worth fighting for. That words were stronger than weapons. They came from different places. They had different skin colors, languages, and faiths. But they all stood for one thing: hope. And now they were gone. But they left something behind. They left memories. They left love. They left reasons. Back on Earth, the people closest to them did not sit still. They began to write. They told stories. They made paintings. They shared old videos. They said, "Look, these were our people, they mattered." A group of children wrote letters to each of the 10. One wrote to Dr. Lena, "I want to learn alien languages like you and help others too." Another wrote to Caleb, "I used to be angry, but now I want to be strong and kind like you." Families started groups to tell the world who their loved ones really were. They didn't want the galaxy to only remember how they died. They wanted everyone to know how they lived. One by one, their faces appeared on posters, in books, on walls, and even in space. A school on the moon named its library after Sora Chen. A park on Mars was named for Jamal Tran. A garden on a deep space ship was planted in memory of Darnell Akoi. Their names were now part of stories being told on hundreds of planets. And something was happening. People who had never met them felt like they knew them. Their lives had touched others across the stars. Even aliens from faraway systems who never understood humans began to wonder, what kind of people create such gentle warriors? What kind of planet raises diplomats who speak softly but stand so tall? The Varnak Dominion had made a choice. They had thought these were just 10 humans, 10 easy targets, 10 soft voices. But they were wrong. These were 10 reasons the stars would remember Earth, 10 lights that would never fully go out, 10 sparks that would soon become something much greater. Something was changing in the hearts of humans. They were sad, they were angry, but more than that, they were united. Each person who had lost someone now stood up for the others. The brother of one, the friend of another, the student of a third, they were no longer separate. They were a chain, and it was growing stronger every day. The world had been quiet before, but not anymore. The 10 were gone, but now there were thousands standing in their place. And Earth was just getting started. At first, everything was quiet. After the 10 humans were taken and never returned, Earth said nothing. The leaders didn't shout. They didn't send warships. They didn't start a battle. But something had changed. People who knew the 10 diplomats stopped smiling. They stopped waiting. They started moving. In the cold dark of space, a Varnak ship disappeared. One moment it was floating near a trade post. The next it was gone. No signal, no trace. No one knew where it went. The Varnak laughed. It must be space dust, they said, or a broken engine. Then a week later, another ship vanished. This one was near Jupiter's orbit. It had sent a message saying everything was normal. Then silence. Still, the Varnak did not worry. Space is full of accidents, they said. Nothing to fear. But things kept happening. A fuel station the Varnak used stopped working. The machines would not turn on. The lights were dark. No one knew why. Engineers checked everything. Nothing looked broken, but still nothing worked. Some Varnak guards started whispering. "This is strange," one said. "I don't like it," said another. One night, a top Varnak officer went to check on a data vault deep in space. It held important files, plans, codes, secrets. But when he got there, the doors were open. The files were gone. No sign of who did it. No alarms. No footsteps. The officer's hands shook. "This isn't an accident," he said. On Earth, no one claimed it. No one stood in front of a camera, but people noticed. Earth wasn't sleeping. They were watching. They were moving. And they were not alone. A group of hackers, all once trained by one of the 10 diplomats, quietly joined together. They remembered Amir Najjar's calm words and steady hands. They didn't use weapons. They used skills. They found holes in Varnak systems. They shut down power for just 1 minute in 5 cities. Just a minute. But it made people look up and wonder, what was that? Another group made up of space pilots started flying strange paths. They didn't break any laws, but they made the Varnak nervous. Ships flew close, then turned away. Lights blinked in codes that only humans could read. It felt like a game, but it was. The Varnak started asking questions. Why are the humans doing this? What do they want? But Earth still said nothing. They weren't trying to scare anyone. They were showing what was possible. They were sending a message. We are not helpless. We are not weak. We are not done. One young woman, Eden Akoy, the daughter of the diplomat Darnell, was giving a speech at a peace meeting on Mars. She stood up in front of hundreds of people from many planets. She looked calm, her voice was soft, but her words were sharp. "My father believed in gardens, not guns," she said. "But even gardens need fences. Even peace needs protectors. We asked nicely. You gave us silence. Now we act." The room went quiet. No one moved. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole room stood. Even some alien leaders stood. They had felt the loss too. They had met the 10. They had shared meals, signed treaties, laughed, learned. The loss was not just Earth's. Soon after, a Varnak trade route was blocked. It wasn't destroyed, just paused. Ships were told, "Please wait." No reason was given, but they waited. Hours turned into days. Profits dropped. The Varnak grew angry. They started sending messages to Earth. "What are you doing? Why are you touching our systems? Is this your way of getting back at us?" Earth didn't answer. Because Earth wasn't trying to win with words. Earth was showing what quiet power looked like. On a faraway moon base, a group of workers planted 10 flags in the ground, one for each diplomat. The flags had no names, just stars. "This is for the ones who believed," said a worker. "Let the stars remember them." On the same day, a Varnak supply ship landed on a planet and found all their boxes empty. Not broken, not stolen, just empty. The food, the tools, the parts gone. The ship's captain was shocked. "But we locked the doors. How did they do this?" No one answered. Across the galaxy, small things began to pile up. A space station that once welcomed Varnak guests now had no room for them. "Sorry," said the host, "we're full." A Varnak news tower found all its screens blinking the same message: "Justice waits." No one could trace where the message came from. A popular singer released a song called 10 Lights. It played on every planet. It was gentle but strong. It told the story of the diplomats. People cried when they heard it. Even Varnak children started asking their parents, "Who were the 10 humans? Why does everyone talk about them?" The parents had no good answer. In quiet rooms, some Varnak leaders started to worry. "This is not war," one said. "This is something else." "They're not shouting," said another. "They're just removing us." One by one, the places the Varnak once controlled were slipping away. A mining station near Saturn was sold by its owner to a human group. "They offered a better deal," said the owner, "and they seemed to care more." Even traders from other species began asking questions. "Are the Varnak safe to work with? Why are the humans upset? What happened on that station?" The Varnak tried to hide the truth. "It was a mistake," they said, "a misunderstanding." But the truth had wings, and it had started to fly. A video leaked from a worker on the neutral station where the 10 were taken. It showed blurry images of the Varnak guards. It showed the humans being taken away. No shouting, no fight, just confusion. The last image showed one diplomat, Jamir, giving a small wave to the camera. People wept when they saw it. It was the wave of someone who knew what was coming. And still he smiled. That wave became a symbol. It appeared on shirts. It became a patch for jackets. It was painted on walls. It meant we remember. Now everywhere the Varnak turned, there were reminders. And it was making them nervous. "We need to strike back," said some. "We need to talk," said others. But Earth still said nothing. Instead, they moved smarter, stronger, more united. In the deep oceans of Earth, a science team named their new underwater base after Dr. Lena Morales. "Let peace grow from the deep," they said. In the deserts of Mars, children built a large sculpture of 10 hands holding stars. And in the skies, human ships flew together, never firing, never threatening, just flying, just watching. One alien leader said, "This is not revenge. This is memory turned into motion." But to the Varnak, it felt like a storm was coming. And still Earth stayed quiet. Because real power doesn't always speak. Sometimes it just moves. And when it does, the whole galaxy watches. The Varnak Dominion had ruled the stars for many years. They believed they were the strongest, the smartest, and the most feared. For a long time they had no reason to worry. Other planets listened to their orders. Other species obeyed their rules. But after they secretly executed 10 human diplomats, something began to change. At first, the Varnak leaders ignored the small signs. They thought humans would stay quiet. They thought Earth would accept the loss and move on. But the opposite happened. Changes started slowly. One ship stopped sending signals, then another disappeared. At first, the Varnak commanders believed it was just a mistake. Space travel was full of dangers. Sometimes systems broke down. Sometimes pilots got lost. They told themselves it was nothing new, but the missing ships kept adding up. Whole cargo transports went silent. Stations near human space stopped working. Some traders stopped coming back. It was no longer just a few problems, it became a pattern. As reports began piling up, Varnak officials grew uneasy. The numbers did not make sense. Goods were going missing. Weapons were failing. Fuel lines were being cut off. More than that, fear was spreading. Varnak workers on faraway planets started asking questions. Some refused to work in human zones. Others quit their jobs without saying why. The Dominion was built on control, but now even that control was slipping. Something was clearly wrong, but no one could say exactly what it was. At the same time, money stopped flowing the way it used to. Galactic markets began to shift. Buyers were avoiding Varnak businesses. Products once sold for high prices were now worthless. The Varnak blamed their enemies. They blamed bad weather. They blamed old machines. But deep down, they knew this was different. These problems were not accidents. Someone had caused them, and it was happening everywhere at once. As fear grew, some Varnak leaders began to investigate. They studied the locations where ships had vanished. They checked the factories that had gone dark. Every time they found a connection to humans. Some of the missing stations were near old human bases. Some of the broken systems used human-made parts. Others had records of human visitors days or weeks before the problem began. Still, no one had seen a human fire a weapon or make a threat. There was no noise, no shouting, just silence and results. The Varnak Dominion had always believed strength came from force. They thought weapons and warships were what made them powerful. But this time they were not fighting an army. They were not facing missiles or explosions. Instead, they were being quietly taken apart. Their systems were being undone. Their trust was falling apart. Their people were growing afraid. And none of it was coming from war. It was coming from human patience and careful planning. In the cities, people started to notice things were different. Some food shelves were empty. Prices changed daily. News stations skipped certain stories. Rumors spread that Earth was planning something. Some said human scientists had found a new kind of power. Others believed human computers were controlling things in secret. No one knew the truth, but everyone could feel the pressure building. The galaxy was no longer safe for the Varnak, and the silence from Earth made it even worse. Inside the main buildings of the Varnak government, tension grew. Meetings ran longer. Arguments became louder. Everyone wanted answers, but no one had any. Some leaders wanted to strike back. They wanted to show strength, but others warned against it. They feared that any wrong move could make things worse. They understood that the humans were not just angry, they were organized. And they were not rushing. They were moving carefully and surely, like a quiet storm that could not be stopped. It became clear that this was no longer just a response, it was a plan. The humans had not forgotten the 10 who were taken. They had not forgiven the silence. And they were showing the Varnak what it meant to be seen. Every broken wire, every failed engine, every missing credit, it was all a message. The Varnak were being shown that they were not untouchable. For the first time in decades, they were learning what fear felt like. As more signs appeared, the Varnak leaders could no longer deny what was happening. Their systems were not safe. Their ships were not strong enough. Their money could not protect them. They were used to being feared. Now they were the ones afraid. They had thought humans were weak. But now they saw that Earth had not shown all its strength before. And what Earth had kept hidden was now being revealed slowly, but without mercy. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading. The Varnak were no longer in control. The stars were watching. Other worlds were paying attention. And Earth, the quiet planet with soft words and brave hearts, was changing everything. Not with noise, not with fire, but with truth, patience, and justice. The Varnak Dominion had made a mistake, and now the whole universe could see it. While the Varnak Dominion began to worry, Earth stayed quiet. There were no loud messages. There were no threats. But that did not mean humans were doing nothing. In secret, Earth was preparing. Meetings were being held in quiet rooms far away from the news and cameras. These were not meetings for show. These were meetings for action. The people in the room were not just leaders. They were scientists, builders, and planners. Some had lost family. Some had lost friends. All of them had lost patience. They sat at long tables and looked at maps of the stars. They pointed at planets and trade routes. They made notes and drew lines. They asked hard questions and gave serious answers. No one laughed. No one smiled. There was no time for that. Earth had been hurt, but it was not broken. Earth was calm, and calm is strong. The plan had 3 parts. The first part was to learn. Earth needed to know everything about the Varnak, what they owned, what they wanted, what they feared. Spies and sensors were used. Satellites watched. Hidden devices listened. Nothing was missed. Every bit of data was added to the plan. Every secret helped. The second part was to protect. Earth had to make sure no more people were taken. Ships were given new shields. Bases were made stronger. Messages were made harder to break. If the Varnak tried to strike again, they would fail. Earth would not lose another life. The third part was to move. This was the hardest part. Humans did not want war. They did not want to destroy, but they could not let the Varnak stay in control. Earth needed to show strength without using bombs. So the plan was clear. Take control of the systems, not the cities. Hit where it would hurt the most, not the people, but the power. Earth used its best minds. They found ways to change prices on Varnak markets. They slowed down trade without ever firing a shot. They made Varnak machines turn off by sending quiet signals. They took back space, piece by piece, without making a sound. People from many nations worked together. They forgot old fights and came as one. This was not just about revenge. It was about justice. It was about safety. It was about showing the galaxy that human life mattered. While the Varnak worried, Earth focused. Satellites moved into new places. Ships flew near Varnak space but never crossed the line. They watched. They waited. And sometimes they acted, but always with care. The humans who once stayed quiet now had a voice, but it was not a loud one. It was smart. It was careful and it was everywhere. Files went missing from Varnak computers. Orders were changed without anyone knowing. Energy systems shut down and turned back on with new settings. The Varnak did not know how it was happening, but Earth knew. The plan was working. Each time something failed in the Varnak Dominion, Earth learned more. They used what they learned to make the next move better. They did not rush. They moved like a river, slow but strong. Their goal was not to win a battle. Their goal was to end the fight without needing one. In the command rooms on Earth, people spoke in quiet voices. They shared reports. They checked progress. They made sure every step was right. These rooms were not full of shouts or cheers. They were full of calm power. Back on Earth, many people did not know what was happening. They went to school, to work, to sleep. They did not see the secret work, but they trusted their leaders, and their leaders trusted the plan. As the days passed, Earth took back control, not with force but with thought, not with anger but with wisdom. The Varnak had started a fire. Earth did not throw water. Earth let it burn out by removing the air, slowly, carefully, and completely. The plan continued. More Varnak systems went quiet. More markets fell. More people in the galaxy began to ask questions. Earth still said nothing out loud, but their silence was loud enough for all to hear. This was not just about 10 people anymore. This was about every world, every being who had ever been hurt by the strong. Earth was not trying to rule. Earth was trying to remind the galaxy, even the quietest voice can change everything. And Earth was no longer quiet. The humans began their quiet attacks with great care and patience. They did not rush or make noise. Instead, they moved slowly, like shadows in the night. No one saw them coming at first. They did not use loud weapons or big explosions. Instead, they used smart ideas and careful plans. The humans wanted to show the Varnak Dominion that they could take control without fighting wars that destroyed everything. First, the humans targeted small outposts far from the main battlefields. These outposts were important because they helped the Varnak watch over the galaxy. They were places where soldiers and workers lived and worked. The humans did not attack with guns or missiles. Instead, they found ways to turn off the power quietly. They stopped the outposts from sending signals. They made the defenses stop working. Slowly, the outposts fell without a single shot fired. The soldiers who worked at these outposts were confused. They did not understand why their machines stopped working. Some thought it was a mistake. Others believed it was a problem with their own equipment. But soon, it was clear that this was no accident. The humans had found a way to get inside the systems and take control. The soldiers did not want to fight something they could not see or understand. Many of them gave up their posts without a fight. The humans were careful not to hurt people. They wanted to show strength, not cruelty. They sent a message: stop now or lose more. It was like a warning whispered across the stars. The humans wanted the Varnak Dominion to know they were serious, but they did not want to destroy everything. They wanted peace, but they were ready to win if needed. As more outposts stopped working, the humans moved to take control of important systems. They targeted communication networks, supply routes, and power grids. These were the things that kept the Varnak Dominion strong. Without them, the Dominion could not control its ships or its soldiers. Without supplies, soldiers could not fight. Without power, stations could not defend themselves. The humans used their knowledge of technology to quietly enter these systems. They worked like skilled hackers, but with a purpose to stop the war without bloodshed. Slowly, they took control of important stations and supply lines. The Varnak Dominion could no longer send orders or move soldiers easily. Their empire began to slow down. Because of this, many Varnak soldiers started to lose hope. They did not want to fight a war that seemed to be slipping away from them. Some left their posts. Others stopped following orders. The humans did not have to fight many battles because the enemy was already losing trust in themselves. The quiet attacks were breaking the Varnak from inside. While the humans were taking control of systems, they also worked to protect Earth. They made sure that no Varnak ship could get close to their home planet. Earth's defenses were strong and well hidden. The humans did not want to waste energy on battles near their planet. Instead, they used their power to make sure no enemy could threaten their people. In the galaxy, many other species began to watch what was happening. Some were surprised by how quiet and calm the humans were. Others were afraid. They had never seen a power so strong yet so patient. The humans were not like the Varnak, who used force to rule. The humans showed that strength could come from wisdom and careful planning. Some smaller planets began to support Earth secretly. They did not want to be caught fighting the Varnak openly, but they believed in the humans' cause. These planets shared information, helped protect supply routes, and sometimes hid human ships. The humans were not alone. Their friends in the galaxy were helping them win without a big war. Even inside the Varnak Dominion, the quiet attacks were causing trouble. Leaders argued about what to do next. Some wanted to fight back hard. They believed the humans could be defeated with enough force. Others said to listen to the warning and make peace. The attacks had shaken the Varnak Empire in a way they never expected. The humans kept their attacks careful and smart. They never wasted energy or resources. Each move was planned to make the Varnak lose more control, but without causing needless destruction. The humans believed that wars should not destroy the future. They wanted a galaxy where everyone could live in peace and respect. During this time, humans also worked to repair and protect places they took over. They fixed broken systems. They made sure people living in captured outposts were safe. They did not want to be seen as cruel invaders. Instead, they wanted to be protectors and helpers. This made many other planets begin to trust Earth more. The quiet attacks were working. The Varnak Dominion was losing power step by step, but the humans never rushed. They waited for the right moment to show their full strength. They used patience like a sharp sword, cutting the enemy's power slowly but surely. People across the galaxy began to talk about the change. They saw that the Varnak were no longer untouchable. They saw that Earth had become a force to be reckoned with. The story of the quiet attacks spread like wildfire. It gave hope to many who had lived in fear of the Dominion. This was a new kind of war, not fought with loud explosions or endless battles. A war fought with brains, patience, and respect for life. The humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson, that true power comes from standing firm without destroying what matters. As the quiet attacks continued, the Varnak Dominion felt more trapped. Their empire was breaking from inside out. Their soldiers were confused and tired. Their leaders were angry and afraid. But the humans stayed calm. They kept their focus on winning without unnecessary harm. Finally, the humans were ready for the next step. They had weakened the enemy enough to begin their plan to end the war. The quiet attacks had done their job. Now, Earth would show the galaxy what real strength looked like. The Varnak Dominion was losing control, but they refused to give up. They were proud and strong. They believed they could still win the war. They thought they could trick the humans. So, the Varnak leaders decided to set a trap. They wanted to catch the humans off guard and crush them all at once. The Varnak prepared their ships and weapons carefully. Their soldiers waited in space, ready to fight. They watched and waited for the humans to make a mistake. The Dominion was sure that their plan would work. They believed their trap would surprise Earth's forces and end the war quickly. But the humans were not as easy to fool as the Varnak thought. Earth's leaders had already guessed that the Dominion would try to trap them. They knew the enemy's pride and anger made them careless. So, the humans prepared their own plan to fight the trap. For months, the humans watched the movements of the Varnak ships. They sent out scouts to gather information quietly. The scouts moved like shadows, never making noise or leaving a trace. They found out where the enemy's ships waited, what weapons they had, and how many soldiers were ready. Back on Earth, the leaders studied the information carefully. They talked about the best way to avoid the trap and turn it against the Varnak. They knew a direct fight would be dangerous. Instead, they wanted to fight smart. One day, the Varnak decided the time was right. They sent a large fleet of ships toward a quiet human station. The Dominion thought this station was weak and easy to capture. It was the perfect bait for the trap. The humans watched the enemy ships approach. Instead of panicking, they stayed calm. They let the Varnak get close. Then, at the exact right moment, something strange happened. Suddenly, the lights on the Varnak ships went out. Their systems stopped working. The ships could not move. The weapons were silent. The Varnak soldiers were shocked. They did not understand what was happening. They tried to restart their systems, but nothing worked. Their ships were trapped. They could not fight or escape. The humans had already been inside their systems for weeks, quietly taking control. It was the humans' trap, not the Varnak's. The Dominion had fallen into it without knowing. The humans used their knowledge of technology to shut down the enemy fleet at the perfect moment. They had prepared carefully, waiting for the right time. The trapped Varnak fleet had no choice but to surrender. The humans took control of their ships without firing a single shot. It was a victory for Earth's forces and a disaster for the Dominion. This event changed everything. The Varnak realized they had underestimated the humans. They thought humans were weak and slow. But now, the Dominion saw Earth's power and patience. They knew the war was not over yet, and they had lost an important battle. The humans' trap showed the galaxy a new kind of strength. It was not loud or violent. It was quiet and smart. It was a power that used brains instead of bombs. This victory made many other planets respect Earth more than ever. Meanwhile, the humans continued to work with care. They made sure the trapped Varnak ships were treated fairly. They did not want to become like their enemies. They wanted to show that they fought with honor and justice. The Varnak leaders were angry and embarrassed. They blamed each other for the failure. They argued about what to do next. Some wanted to give up and ask for peace. Others wanted to keep fighting no matter what. But the truth was clear. The humans had the upper hand. They had used patience, intelligence, and careful planning to win. The trap the Varnak tried to set had become their own downfall. After this, the war began to change faster. The humans, quiet attacks and smart moves had weakened the Dominion so much that the end was near. The Varnak had lost their chance to win back control. The trap was a lesson for the galaxy. It showed that even the strongest enemies could be stopped without violence. It showed that thinking carefully and acting wisely could win wars. Earth's leaders stayed humble. They knew the war was not over, but the success of their trap gave them hope and strength to continue. They wanted peace, but they were ready for whatever came next. The galaxy watched closely. Everyone wanted to see how this new kind of war would end. The humans had changed the rules. The Varnak Dominion was learning that force alone was not enough. The trap was a turning point. It proved that humans were not just survivors. They were fighters, thinkers, and leaders. They were ready to protect their home and the whole galaxy. And so the war went on. But now the Varnak knew that they faced something different. They faced Earth, a force that was quiet but strong, patient but powerful, a force that would never be caught off guard again.